Okay, so before I get started, I just want to say this is my first YouTube video ever. This is way out of my comfort zone, but I'm really experiencing a whirlwind of emotions with this pregnancy, and I hope to just shed some light on my situation and be able to help others who might be in a similar situation. So I am in my third pregnancy. I'm currently 20 weeks and 2 days, and I live in Georgia. So this is to give you a kind of a summary of what happened with me with my failed abortion and how the heartbeat law in Georgia has affected me so far. So back in early December, kind of suspected I was pregnant. As I said, this is my third pregnancy, so pretty in tune with my body. So my period was a little late. I was feeling fatigued. I was pale, weak. So decided to take a pregnancy test. Took the pregnancy test. It was positive. And at that point, I was technically 5 weeks. So this is about 1 week after I missed my period. So technically, for those of us who have been pregnant or know how we calculate gestation, I'm technically 3 weeks at this point, but we add on those extra 2 weeks between your last period and your suspected ovulation date. So I'm already 5 weeks by the time I found out that I'm pregnant. So I already have two kids. So I had a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old at the time, and I just was not ready to bring another child into the world with a 1-year-old who, of course, is very demanding. So I did decide to move forward with an abortion. By the time I made calls locally and out of state, I wasn't able. The soonest appointment I could get was about 2 weeks from when I found out that I was pregnant. So when I actually would be getting the procedure, I would be 7 weeks. I was kind of disappointed in myself because I'm usually like pretty up to date with like politics and things like that. But while the whole heartbeat bill debate was going on and people were overturning it and bringing it back, I was completely out of the loop. I don't know why. I just felt like I won't be having any kids anytime soon. So I'm really not worried about it. I was wrong. Doing my research when I found out I was pregnant, it was very hard to get an appointment within 1 week of me finding out that I was pregnant. So, that's already unfair. And then a lot of people don't even know that they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So if you're not familiar, the heartbeat law in Georgia just basically says that you can't get an abortion after 6 weeks when there's a heartbeat. So if I find out I'm pregnant at 5 weeks, that gives me 1 week to get something done, get the money, schedule an appointment, all those things. And I did have the money, but I could not get an appointment within 1 week. The soonest appointment would be 2 weeks from when I found out. So I decided to travel to North Carolina to get an abortion. So here I am driving 5-6 hours away. Me and my partner, I woke up early one morning, took the drive. This was my first abortion experience. So I was anxious, but I was sure about what I wanted to do. So I wasn't like really apprehensive about doing it. I decided to get the procedure versus the pill because I just wanted it to be a one-day process. I wanted to leave the clinic with no baby. And I just didn't want to have to go home and go through the extra pain and experiences at home. So we get there, we get into the first waiting room. It's a short wait to call me to the back. And I'm like one of the first people there. So I waited maybe like 15 minutes before they called me to the back. Get to the back, it's a whole extra waiting room. And I end up waiting like 4 hours before I did my procedure. 2 hours into the wait, I was given ibuprofen, and I asked the nurse, I'm like, so is this all that we're going to get? Like, is there any extra pain medicine, or, you know, at this point, once I signed the paperwork, I realized that I wouldn't be getting put to sleep. So that made me nervous because I was under the impression that I would be getting put into sleep before I got there. So I'm like, ibuprofen 800, like I take that, you know, for period cramps every month. So is that enough? And she's like, well, we do offer, like, you can pay extra to get like extra medication, but it really doesn't work. It's not effective. And most patients say it's not that bad. It just feels like pressure and cramping. So I'm like, okay, because I know myself, I don't have a high pain tolerance. And again, it's my first time doing this, so that made me very nervous. And mind you, I was given that 2 hours before I actually got the procedure. So they finally called me into like another waiting area with like recliner chairs and TVs. And in this waiting area is basically women who are about to get the procedure and women who just got the procedure done. So I'm kind of looking at the people who just got it. They look a little in pain, but nothing too crazy. And they're just kind of laid back, relaxing, and waiting until they can leave after their procedure. And there's other people who are after me, and they are asking, it was one woman in there asking people as they were coming out, like, how was it? Was it okay? I'm assuming it was her first time too, so she was starting to feel nervous about what happened when she got the procedure. So they were like, it's not that bad. It's just like pressure, cramping, same thing. So they finally called my name. Very anxious, very aware of my body, and usually good at like calming myself down. So the doctor comes in, he introduces himself, and there's a nurse there. So they have an ultrasound machine next to the bed, and the nurse is like doing the ultrasound as the doctor is trying to perform the procedure. So I'm laying on the bed, looking at the ceiling, just taking deep breaths, trying to relax because I felt very scared, and just telling myself, like, it's only 10 minutes, like, you can do this, just stay calm. But apparently that wasn't working. So the doctor is like, you're very tense. The more tense you are, the more it's going to hurt, and it's making it hard. So I'm like just taking deep breaths. At this point, you can like hear me breathing loud in the room, like taking deep, long, slow breaths, just trying to stay calm. And he just keeps repeating himself, you're tense, you're tense. I'm thinking like, what else can I do besides breathe to not be tense? I'm trying to not be tense, but this is a tense ass situation. So he goes in with the speculum, and they give a local anesthesia to the cervix. I didn't feel that. And the next thing I know, I could feel something in my uterus like wiggling around. And it's a vacuum that they're using to like get all of the baby out. And at this point, I'm 7 weeks in a few days, so the baby is very small. I'm sure it did have a heartbeat, but yeah, so I feel cramping, and it hurts bad, and it feels like he's digging. Like, it felt like it took him forever to find my cervix, which is not unusual for me. Whenever I get an exam or anything, like, the doctor has to look around for a couple seconds before they see my cervix. So in hindsight, I'm thinking like maybe he was just trying to find my cervix, because he was like digging around and kind of like taking deep breaths, like he was getting frustrated, like he couldn't find what he was looking for. So then he's like, tell the nurse, like, have her hold her legs up. And I put my legs up, but I'm thinking like, I cannot hold my legs up. Like my mind is somewhere else. Like, I'm ready to get this over with. I don't have the energy and strength to sit right here and hold my legs up. So I hold them up for like a minute, but then I like slowly let them go, and my legs are just up. And he's like steady digging around. I still feel cramping, and I'm just looking at the ceiling like, this hurts. I don't know what everybody was talking about. I'm like cussing the nurse out in my head about this damn ibuprofen. And I'm just telling myself like, I'm never doing this again. Like, I'm never doing this again. So it's like 10 minutes later, the doctor didn't say anything. He dropped the tools. I hear the stuff like hit the counter, and he walks out. So I just immediately started crying because I could tell that he was frustrated. I was nervous and frustrated. And the nurse is like, okay, I'm going to help you up. And she puts on a pad. She puts me on a pad. And she's like, I'm going to help you up. And I go back to the waiting area with the recliner. So as soon as I sit down, I'm very uncomfortable because of the way the doctor responded to me. I could tell, I felt like he got frustrated that I was tense, or that it was whatever he was supposed to easily be able to do, it wasn't easy for him to do. So I was just emotional because I just had my first abortion. And also I'm like, I felt like he was mad at me. And I'm like, you know, I'm a patient. This is my first time in this situation. Even if you were frustrated, I shouldn't have felt that. So he literally didn't say anything to me. The nurse walked me back to the waiting area, and she's like, they give me like my take-home papers with like further instructions that give me birth control, and they tell me when I'm ready, I can go in the restroom and get dressed and get another pad if I need one. So I waited maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. Didn't wait very long. Went in the bathroom, changed my clothes, put on another pad. I did have some bleeding. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't even like a regular period, but it was more than spotting. And I just felt bad, so I left. And plus, I had already been there 4 hours. And plus, we had a 6-hour drive back home, so I just left. So, fast forward a little bit. For about 3 weeks after my procedure, those whole 3 weeks after my procedure, I still feel pregnant. Like, I still feel like fatigue. I still feel nauseous. I still feel moody. And I'm just like Googling like how long does it take to, you know, for the HCG hormone, all the pregnancy hormones to kind of go back to normal or go away. When should I start feeling normal? So online it was saying like it could take up to 4 weeks, and I'm waiting on my period to start. So within those 3 weeks, I spotted, like I bled the day of the procedure and the next day. Didn't bleed again for like another week. And after that, I thought I came on my period, but it was really just like 1 day of light bleeding. So it wasn't my actual period. And so by the beginning of week 2, I start to get worried because I'm like, why is my period not coming yet? Why do I still feel pregnant? Asking my friends who've had the procedure, they're all like, when we got the procedure, I almost felt immediate relief. Like it definitely didn't take weeks to go away. So I scheduled my follow-up with my OB. And I'm like, no, just regular follow-up. And I did have sex within those 3 weeks too. So I'm like, fuck, I hope I didn't get pregnant again. So now I'm kind of thinking that I could be re-pregnant because of the symptoms and no period. So I go to the OB before I kind of start suspecting that I was pregnant again. Get a regular checkup, but the lab closed that day. And I couldn't get my blood work done. So I was supposed to go to like another outside lab, get my blood work done so that my doctor could check my HCG levels. So in between me stalling to get my blood work done, that's when I started to feel like maybe I got re-pregnant. So I finally go get another pregnancy test. Take the pregnancy test, it's positive. I'm frustrated because I'm like, we just went through this. Why would I sit up here and get pregnant again? Like, and now I know I'm definitely having it because I'm not going to get another abortion. That was a bad experience for me. So I make an appointment and to get like to a clinic that just does free pregnancy tests. I went there and they confirmed I was still pregnant, but they didn't want to do an ultrasound because they were assuming that I was like 4 or 5 weeks pregnant. And they were like, the ultrasound is just gonna make you mad because we're not gonna be able to see anything this early. So we think you should just come back maybe 2 weeks from now so that we'll be able to see and be able to, you know, give more information. So I do that. At this point, I kind of think I'm pregnant. Like, I'm like, the pregnancy tests were positive, but I wasn't sure if it was just still pregnancy hormones left from the first pregnancy. So I wasn't like panicking yet, but just kind of like, okay, it's a good possibility that I am pregnant again. So my 1-year-old gets sick. I take her to the ER, and while I'm there, I remembered that my OB was like, "Oh, you can just go to the ER whenever we're closed. Give them your paperwork, and they will draw your labs and send the results to me." So I get my blood drawn while I'm there with my daughter, and my daughter ends up being fine. She really just had like an upper respiratory infection. I wind up not being fine. The blood work did confirm that I was pregnant. So the doctor comes in, she looks very concerned. And she's like, okay, so your HCG levels are very high. And she's like, even if you had an abortion, because at this point it's early February. So even if you had an abortion in December, your HCG levels wouldn't be this high. So to me, I'm thinking you could be like 8 or 9 weeks pregnant. So I start to get nervous because I'm like, 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, that doesn't add up. That doesn't add up. So she orders me an ultrasound. I get the ultrasound, and the sonographer is like, you're measuring at 14 weeks pregnant. And I was completely devastated because I was so scared for the baby's health. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, does all the body parts look like it's there? Does everything look normal for a 14-week-old gestational period? And she's like, yeah, this looks like a normal 14-week pregnancy. So then she started asking me, like, where did you get your procedure? What did they do? Her and the doctor was so confused because they're like, how do you still have the same pregnancy if you got a procedure? Like, some of them were like, maybe if you got the pill, we could understand better, but you got a whole procedure. So what happened? My doctor was just very concerned. So I'm like boohoo crying because, not because I'm still pregnant, because clearly I feel like everything happens for a reason. So it's not like I'm devastated about still being pregnant, but I'm confused because I didn't even know that that was a possibility. Throughout my research, through all of the people I know who've had abortions, I've never heard of a failed abortion. And then I feel guilty because I'm like, what damage have I done by attempting to get an abortion? And I feel sad because I'm like, what if something's wrong? What if there's a deformity? And I'm just very worried. Everybody that I told, 2 of my closest friends are doctors, so I'm like calling them while I'm in the ER. And one of my doctor friends was just completely in disbelief. She was like, there's no way that happened. And I'm like, it happened. She's like, are you sure like you didn't have sex again? Or I'm like, they're telling me I'm 14 weeks. This is the same pregnancy that I had in December. So I schedule my OB appointments. I'm very emotional about it. I just leave and I'm just talking about it with my partner, and he was very reassuring because he was just like, everything so far looks normal, so you're making yourself panic and upset before there's even like a problem. So just like calm down, like we're gonna get through this. You already made the decision that you wanna keep the baby at this point. So just relax. And he was very helpful with helping me just calm down and work through my feelings. And so I started to kind of do my own research about failed abortions, and I figured out that this was a possibility. I looked at the clinic that I went to in North Carolina, some of their reviews. There was another lady there that had a failed abortion, but she said that she was informed at the end that it was a failed abortion, and so she had to go to the nearest hospital. And I was just disappointed and confused with the provider because I could tell that day, like something didn't feel right when he just abruptly left the room and dropped the tools and didn't say anything at all as he left. But I just never thought in a million years that he left a fetus inside of me. And I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. I wanted to say, like, maybe it was a mistake, maybe he couldn't tell, but that just doesn't make sense because there was a whole ultrasound machine on my stomach as they were doing it. So it just really didn't add up. And through me doing my research, I spoke to my doula, I spoke to a midwife, and I was just asking them, like, have they heard of this happening before? And they all had heard of failed abortions before. And that was just crazy. But, you know, I guess that's the line of work they're in, so it would make sense that they've experienced this. But my doula, a midwife that I know, and my OB, all of them were like, in the situations they knew of, the babies were normal and healthy, you know, after the failed abortion. So that did provide some reassurance. And yeah, so that's that. And it's been a lot. It's been definitely a roller coaster of emotions since then. But like I said in the beginning, I'm now 20 weeks. So we are still here. We are still pushing. And we are hoping for the best.